Hello everyone, good afternoon or good morning depending on which coast you're on. Welcome to the webinar on environmental science, the first fully online textbook on environmental science. My name is Cutler Cleveland. I'm a professor in the Department of Earth and Environment at Boston University and one of the co-authors of this textbook. The other author is Robert Kaufman, a colleague of mine here at Boston University. We also have with us Joakim Lindblom, who's President and Chief Technology Officer of Trunity, the company that has delivered this great platform that you'll see demonstrated today. And we will both be presenting different aspects of both the textbook and the platform. So the purpose of this webinar, purposes, I should say, are as follows. The first is to demonstrate this web-based textbook on environmental science. The second is to demonstrate how it could be used in your class. We will demonstrate the type of support available for instructors and students who used this electronic textbook. And last, but perhaps most importantly, to answer your questions. So the format is as follows. I'll present an overview of the textbook, its capabilities, and how you can adopt and customize and implement the book. Joakim will also demonstrate some aspects of the book and about the platform more broadly. If you have questions, there's a control panel for the GoToWebinar that you activated when you signed in, and there's a drop-down menu there that is labeled as questions. So if you have questions, please type them as we go along, and at the end of the webinar, we'll make sure that we answer all the questions that you have. And myself and Joakim and the other support staff at Trunity will of course be available after the webinar to talk to people one-on-one, so should you want it. So with that in mind, let me talk a little bit about the initial motivations behind this project. When I first started teaching this class, which was about 20 years ago, I would say, I used and had to choose from the bevy of introductory environmental science textbooks that you undoubtedly are all familiar with. That bevy is probably increased by a factor of 3 or 4, and I grew increasingly disappointed with what the print version could do for the classroom and for my students. So we decided to pursue the option that we viewed as the long-run future for much of higher education, and that is the electronic world. So here's a bullet list of some of the reasons behind this motivation and this project. And I should mention, not shown here though, is another important point, and that is the textbook that you'll see, the initial version of that, the initial edition, was a print version of the textbook that was published by McGraw-Hill back in 2007. And as we approached the revision for the second edition, we decided to go in a different direction and bought back the rights to the book from the publisher and produced the version that you'll see, which is that book plus normal content revisions plus all the new multimedia and other features that only the web can provide. So we were motivated also in part because of how easy it is to write books on the Trunity platform online and add content as instructors, the ability to add multimedia, image galleries, audio, and all the other content that only the web can provide. Another attractive feature for us as authors was the ability to update content on our schedule rather than the publisher's schedule, which is typically for an introductory textbook a 3-year revision cycle, which is dictated by the decimation of the new book sales by used book sales. But of course, that revision cycle may or may not align with what is pedagogically, scientifically, and educationally appropriate. So one of the great things about this platform, as you'll see, is you can update things on the fly, continuously adding information, revising information, and instantaneously push that content directly to students. You'll also see that it's quite easy to convert this textbook into a course, a website for your course that is built around the textbook, but which adds other learning management systems such as quizzes and discussion forums and so on. Another plus for us was the ability to lower the cost to students. This version that you'll see is approximately 1/3 the cost of a new print version. And last and also not least, it's a much sweeter deal for authors since we retain 70% of the net revenue generated, which is a much higher rate than the traditional print version. So financially, both students and authors get a good deal. So what are the benefits for students and for instructors? So from the student's perspective, there are a lot of great things about this type of learning experience. First of all, there's a single login or sign-in to all resources associated with a class, the textbook, quizzes, exams, and other ancillary materials, PowerPoints, and so on. As you'll see, there's a very easy to follow learning sequence. That is, you move through the content in the book. It's quite easy to follow and flows very nicely. A very powerful search and navigation, which is consistent with the state of the art on the web in general. You can view this book on all major devices, computers, notebooks, handheld devices, and so on, in any major browser. There's a highlighting and annotation tool for students. There's a social networking capability that is under the control of the instructor for his or her class. The book becomes a permanent online reference. This may not be important for students who are just taking the class as a one-off to meet a requirement for some major or distribution requirement, but for those of you who teach in departments or programs where students are actually majoring in environmental science or environmental policy or a related field, this is quite important, and this is one of the things that drew me to this this type of publication, because I teach a lot of students that are majoring in environmental science and policy, and the student has this book permanently. And so as they move through their other courses in our department, this introductory class is a building block, is a required class for additional classes. And as they move through those other classes, they always have this book online to easily reference and use going forward. And as I mentioned, for the students, there's a significant cost savings. For instructors, the same single sign-on to all resources is an easy way to corral and organize all your content. As I'll show you in a moment, it's very easy to customize the content to suit your needs, adding and moving chapters, moving them around, adding videos, and so on. You can add other types of pedagogical elements such as assignments and quizzes. You can manage class activity online, and as I've already mentioned, you receive content that is extremely up-to-date and can be maintained in a very rigorous fashion, which is important, as you know, in the environmental field, where a lot of information changes in regards to, for example, climate change, new energy technologies, and so on. So the textbook itself, which I'm about to demonstrate, is a fairly standard, in a general sense, introductory environmental science textbook. 24 chapters covering many of the familiar topics that most of you probably cover in your class. We have added 63 videos. There's an embedded glossary. We have some excellent ancillary materials, a 500 multiple choice question test bank. There is an integrated learning management system where if you choose to, you can do quizzes and other assessments online. We have PowerPoints available for all chapters, easy for instructors to customize. This particular book is priced at $50 for students. And again, you have lifelong access to the book. We used it last year here at BU in our large introductory environmental science class, and it's been adopted at a number of other classes for this past spring and summer, and we have many times that considering it for adoption in the fall. So with that introduction, let me now move to actually demonstrating the book itself. And what you see here is the landing page for the electronic textbook. And so this is the experience that you would have, and also that the student would have when they came to the book. And what you see initially here is the table of contents, similar as you would see for a print edition of the book. And a couple of features to note before we dive into the content. You have the chapter titles listed down the page. If I were to click on this arrow for a particular chapter, it will then reveal the content within that chapter, which are in essence subdivisions, subheadings, topics within that chapter, and clicking on any one of those takes you directly to that section. Note also up here at the top in this menu of tabs, we have a glossary, and clicking on that displays the glossary terms, the important key terms for the particular section that you happen to be in. This happens to be for the entire book, since we're at the book landing page. But if you were on a particular chapter and clicked on glossary, it would just take you to the glossary terms for those chapters. Note also that there's an assignments tab and an exams tab, which takes you to some of the assessment tools associated with the chapter. And we're going to come back to those in a bit, and Joakim is going to display those. Note also, up here in the upper right, we have an editing wheel, and this enables you as an instructor to customize the content. And amongst other things, for example, if I click on content sequence, what this allows me to do is to actually change the sequence or the order of content. And as you undoubtedly know, many people teach environmental science in a particular way, and although many of the topics are the same across classes, they oftentimes will vary in the sequence. So if you wanted to move one chapter ahead of another, you simply drag and drop that chapter or article and move the sequence, and you can customize the content in that ways. Similarly, if I open up chapter 1, if I go to a chapter 1 landing page, now I'm looking at just the content for chapter 1. If I clicked on glossary, I see the glossary terms that pertain only to chapter 1. And if I go up under the editing wheel and click content sequence, now I can change the order of content within chapter 1. So that gives you one important way to customize content. Up here in the upper right, there's a search box, and that search box works in a very standard way. If I search, for example, for food web, I see returns that have food web in the content, and if I clicked on one of the links, it will take me to that. In this particular case, it's a section within Chapter 5, one of the ecology chapters, which talks about food webs and food chains. So this is another important mode of discovery within the book. So let's then dive into the actual content itself. So I'm now back here on the main landing page. And let's say I wanted to start reading Chapter 1. So I click on Chapter 1, and now here I see all the content associated with Chapter 1. Each of our chapters starts out with a set of learning objectives, which describes to the students what we expect them to have learned by the time they have finished the chapter. And then spilling down the page is all the content associated with Chapter 1. And note that the little icons describe the different types of content one can associate with your course or your book. These happens to be all text-based or articles, these individual chapter subheadings. But notice down here further there are other icons. So for example, here's an assignment that students have been assigned. Joakim will demonstrate that in a few moments. This happens to be an icon indicating an image gallery, and this icon indicates a particular a video that is associated with this chapter. So you can, from this chapter landing page, you can access all the content associated with a chapter. So let's say I wanted to start reading. Our book starts out in Chapter 1 with a story about Easter Island and the collapse of Easter Island and the environmental and social and other factors that contributed to the collapse of Easter Island, and is used to introduce the notion of sustainability, which is a theme throughout our entire book. So this is what a typical page looks like. Now, one important thing to note here is that I'm logged in as an instructor, so I see up here at the top a series of editing tools, menu tabs, which students will not see if they do not have administrative privileges. And I'll show you what the student view is in a moment. It's pretty much looks like this except for these editing tabs. So you can see I start reading, and right away you can see one of the important differences between this textbook and a regular textbook, and that is the use of video. And here's a little video that we have, a National Geographic video on Easter Island talking about some of the reasons behind its collapse. Won't play the sound, but so we have the video actually embedded in the text, which provides an enormously powerful and rich learning experience, which obviously you can't do in the print world. I'm just going to click to some other areas to show you some examples of other videos that we have. So I'm jumping ahead in the book. I have these pages tabbed up in my browser. So here, this is in the chapter on biomes, and this happens to be the section on tropical savanna. So there's some fairly typical, images and graphs you might see in a print edition, but then here's a video on the savanna biome, which gives some information in much greater detail with some nice imagery. Note also here, another thing you can do with the web is really do a lot more with high-resolution images. And we have gone through and replaced many of our original images with much richer, higher resolution images and added a large number of new ones, which really increases the visual appeal and impact of the book. Another example of a video is here in the climate change chapter. So we talk about the long run in trying to explain to students the the greenhouse effect and the human contribution to climate change and the evidence behind it. The long run CO2 record that's contained in the ice cores from Antarctica is an important part of that. And here's a video produced by the scientists down there, which describes how they actually use ice cores to reconstruct long-run CO2 records. And third and last example of the video is up here in the renewable energy chapter. And so one of the great things you can do with videos, with animations, is describe visually and dynamically things that would be very cumbersome to do in words. So I could describe in words in a static image what a wind turbine is. But here I have a video from a university in Denmark, the world's leading user of electricity from wind, which actually describes how a wind turbine functions. So these are some examples of how the use of video really enriches the experience for students. And it's one of the nice things about the platform is you can add your own video as well. So back here in chapter 1, where we started our journey, as we read through the chapter, we also see at the bottom another type of content that we've added to this textbook, and that is an image gallery. So in addition to the images embedded in the text, we have created standalone image galleries, which enable one to develop in a visual sense in more detail a particular topic, and this happens to be an image gallery of Easter Island itself. To give you another example of an image gallery with a little more scientific content, I'm now jumping up here to another one of the ecology chapters where we talk about thermoregulation, endotherms and ectotherms. And there's a nice video there which describes thermoregulation. But we've also included some galleries which have, in the case of endotherms, some, I guess, charismatic megafauna. And here we've pulled actual content from the Encyclopedia of Life, which on a species level basis gives some nice, fairly detailed information about a particular species, which again is a way to enrich the experience for students and provide instructors with a way to add that type of content. So back here in chapter 1, so let me just show you some of the things from a student's perspective, what they can do as they're reading. So one of the tools that we have on the platform is an annotation tool, a highlighting tool. And so if there's a particular piece of content which I think is important as a student, I highlight it and note that a little annotate button pops up. Clicking on that opens up a box, and I can type in whatever note I want as a student. And now you can see it looks very much like a page you would use a physical highlighter on. Text is highlighted. If I mouse over that, the annotation pops up. If I click on it, I can then go in and edit the annotation, or delete it, or do whatever I want. So the annotation tool is a great way students can personalize content in their version of the book. Another tool for students is a bookmarking functionality. So I go way up here in the upper right. If I click on this icon called bookmarks, if this page I think is particularly important, I can say bookmark this page, and then no matter where I am in the book, if I want to get back to this page, I can access this page from the bookmarks menu. So let's say, I happen to be up here in the wind chapter, much further along in the book, and when I'm reading this for some reason it says, oh, this reminds me of something that we talked about way back in chapter 1, kind of remember it, and if I go up here and click on my bookmarks, for some reason it didn't pop up there, but the bookmark, I must not have put it in right, the bookmark would pop up there and it would take me back to that page. So these types of annotations and bookmarks that students make are solely on their copy only, and so the students can personalize their text in this way. Down here at the bottom of the page, although it's not used here because this is an instructor's copy, there's a discussion forum. So the platform comes with a nice social networking functionality whereby students can communicate with themselves or a subset of their cohort, or a faculty member can moderate a forum that he or she requests students or requires students to participate in, and it's another great way to use a feature and functionality that today's students are, as you well know, very used to using. So a couple of reminders about the navigation. I can always get back to the chapter landing page by clicking on chapter 1, which takes me back to the landing page. And over here on the left-hand side, no matter where I am in the book, I have the table of contents. So I can always get back to a chapter landing page from that, and clicking on the top banner will always take me back to the home page of the book. And the other important form of navigation is that by which you actually read the book, and students can move through the text by simply clicking on this navigation arrow up here in the upper right, and they simply move through the content, reading as they go, and clicking the back arrow takes them back obviously one page and forward a page. So very straightforward, easy to use navigation. So let me just show you a little bit now about how you can actually customize content. So when you adopt this book, a version of this book is cloned to a website that is under your administrative control and that only you have access to. And from there you can do whatever you want with the content. So for example, let's say we're in chapter 1 and you want to add some additional, some good, you want to look for or already know of some nice video associated with this topic. So let's say I wanted to add a video on Easter Island. So if I do a Google search for Easter Island, and I've already done this ahead of time, so I've kind of gamed the system here, but you're going to get the idea. Here's a nice Richard Attenborough documentary on Easter Island. In this case with YouTube, all you have to do is, I'm copying the YouTube ID. I go back to the book, and way up here in the upper left, you see this little icon that says Add Content. So I'm going to click on that, and now you can see all the different types of content that one can add. A gallery, an exam, an assignment, an article. One of those choices is video. So I click on that, and it pops a little box which enables me to add a video. So I have this video, I can name it whatever I want. We'll call it Easter Island. In this particular case, since it's a YouTube video, I just type in the URL. You can type in, if you want to, a description of this for the students. You can tag it if you want to different areas, which enables you to later on to find it in various ways. If you have tags that you want to use, you can do that. And then down here, I choose where I want this content to be associated. So you see here all the chapters of the book, and in this case, I want this associated with chapter 1. So I click chapter 1 and click Submit. So now this video has been added, and I can play it here. But if I go back to chapter 1, whoops, sorry about that. So I'm now on the landing page for chapter 1. If I scroll down here now, you can see down here at the bottom is this video that I just added. And so now, let's say I want to, after my students have read the first couple sections on Easter Island, I want them to use this video. So I can then go up here and use this content sequence and take this video that I've added and drag it. Oops, I didn't get up as far as I wanted to. Let's see, I want it after this, the island that's self-destructed. So I save that order. Now I go back to the chapter landing page, and now you can see the video is in the place that I put it. So now when the students are reading the book, and after they've read this particular section about Easter Island, they will then see the video, watch the video, and then continue reading. So this is one example of how you can customize content. You can also, as I've already indicated, add articles, PDFs, PowerPoints, other types of content, and put them wherever you want in the book. So as I've already mentioned, there are some nice ancillary materials. Just to remind you, we have a question test bank, 500 questions. We also have assignments that we use in our book, which we have made available to instructors that want them. I know many of you have your own, and we also have a PowerPoint lecture associated with each chapter for instructors that want that. So how does all this work? And so I'll finish up with this before I turn it over to Joakim. So now I'm going to switch browsers here. And so I have a version of the book opened up here where I'm logged in as a student. Okay? So this is how it would look to a student. Now notice that the title is slightly different. So this is GE100, which is the name of my class here at BU. And this is the version of the book that the students used last fall. Notice that up here in the URL, that the URL now has changed, and it reflects the way in which you access the book should you adopt it. So you choose the book, and Trunity publishes a version of the book to a URL that's unique to your class. And so you can choose to take all the book, you can choose to take half the book, you can initially pick whatever the portion of the book that you want, and once it's published here, now you are under complete control over the content at this particular site. So here's an example of some things that I did. Notice, for example, that I added from my class a section on about this course. So I added the actual syllabus for the class, which includes all the usual stuff, but it also includes hyperlinks that go directly to the individual chapters from the syllabus itself, which students found quite helpful. I also added some content on material for our discussion section. Syllabus for the discussion section, students can download the actual assignments. We use the ecological footprint in our class as the basis for our assignments, and other material, exam grade distributions, news archives. I start my class out with a news, a current events thing, usually from the New York Times or something, and they have links directly to those things that I show in class, and so on. And so this shows you how the students access the content from their class. And so the way it works in terms of the students is that you simply send the students this URL. If they have not already signed up, they will have a page when they go to that URL. Ask them to sign up. They put in their name, rank, and serial number. a credit card and pay $50, and then they're in. And so it's a very simple, straightforward experience. Same experience that we all have every day, you know, registering and purchasing stuff on the web. And so the student, as I've said before, owns this book forever. We will in the future produce new, essentially, additions to the book. We call them versions, which is more consistent with web-based material. New versions that would require a modest upgrade fee to purchase. So we haven't quite figured out how this will work yet, but minor changes, adding new dates, a new figure here, changing a number here, which we kind of do on an ongoing basis with this book, are automatically pushed through, and students and instructors receive those free of charge. But when we go through a major revision, such as adding chapters or overhauling 3 or 4 chapters in one fell swoop, then people who have bought a previous version of the book would have to pay some type of upgrade fee to receive that that newer version. But in terms of the version that you purchase, you own it forever. So the instructors have sole control over the site, and you can easily roll material over from one semester to the next, adding and subtracting to it. And let me also, lastly, before I turn over to Joakim, show you this online support. So here's a web page at the Trunity site, which has a lot of excellent how-to information and tutorials, videos on how to use the book, how to navigate, how to add content, all types of things that you might experience for both the instructor and the students. So with that, I will stop, and I am now going to turn the controls over to Joakim. Again, Joakim Lindblom is the Chief Technology Officer for Trunity, and he is going to tell you about some additional functionalities and features. So, Joakim, I'm about to transfer this over to you.
Thank you, Cutler, for an excellent overview. What I would like to do is take a little bit of a step back to talk about the Trunity platform and its components, and then show some of the specific features and functionality over and above what Cutler has shown. Something that makes the Trunity platform different is that Trunity is not only an authoring and publishing platform, but it's also a platform for deploying the content into the classroom, complete with learning management, as well as some social collaboration and networking, essentially closed social networks that are contained within the classroom. And that's a key difference between this platform and many of the other competing platforms, the fact that we do an end-to-end integration of the functionality. Let me talk a little bit about how an instructor would assemble a course from a textbook. So the next screen here shows the sequence of content in the textbook. And the instructor can add content, subtract content, reorder content, and the textbook automatically renumbers the chapters in the proper sequence. Not only that, but the instructor can add elements such as exercises, assignments, homework, and quizzes and exams. And so what happens when a student gets the URL, the private URL, they get the login and payment screen, they pay their fee, and then they're in. And the content and the learning objects are presented in a single, easy-to-use sequence. And in addition to that, integrated is things like forums, annotation, as well as the ability for the instructor to add content during the course itself. For instance, if there's a news item that's relevant to the material being taught, it makes it more interesting and compelling for the students. The students all have their own dashboard, which includes a calendar, a messaging mail system that they can, at their option, also have go out to the regular mail, as well as ability to see their peers, including in the class as well as any other classes that they have classmates in. And once they're finished with the course is part of their lifelong library that they can refer back to. And in addition to that, the social connections with their classmates that they've created are available there as well. And at the end of the course, the instructor can then put this course into their own repository of courses and then reuse it, clone it, reuse it, minus the student information for the next time they're teaching the course. Another key feature of the platform is the ability to post that course into the knowledge exchange and make it available for other instructors in other schools. The system is intelligent in terms of tracking royalties. So if the instructor has added some of their own material that they want to charge with and they put it back onto the knowledge exchange for other schools to use, this royalty tracking system tracks their content as well as the original content. So when new students purchase it, it distributes the royalty accordingly. So let me illustrate how an instructor would add exams, quizzes, and assignments. I have here the environmental science textbook. And as you can see here, we've got the content in the sequences as Cutler has demonstrated. Up here is a tool for adding content to the course. Included in this is the ability to add quizzes and exams. And click on this, and you can see the interface here. You title the exam, the description, whether it's active, who can take it, feedback, the pass message, and then adding questions is simply a matter of adding questions, whether it's multiple choice or true false. And you can have any number of answers. In addition to that, you can also put pass messages or fail messages for each question, so that for formative learning, the students get a message. For instance, if they fail a question, they can go back and study a section, or if they get it right, you can put information about how to learn more advanced information on this subject. Once it's been added to the section or the course, it shows up in the course sequence, and as Cutler showed, you can drag and drop to put it just in the place that you want it. So in this case, I have a sustainability quiz here that follows the 4 principles of sustainability. So what I'm going to do now is go over to the student view. Here is the student view, and it looks very similar to the instructor view. One of the principles of the platform is to make the views as similar as possible, only make it different where it needs to be. So unlike the instructor, the student doesn't have the controls for editing the content and so forth. So I'm going to jump right into this section of the textbook, violating principle number 4, externalities and subsidies. When the student is going through reading this material here, at the end, they click Next. And so what they see next is the quiz. And I'm going to go ahead and take the quiz. This is a very short quiz. So I am choosing my answers here. So the student can actually save the answers and come back, or they can submit the quiz. So I'm going to go ahead and submit the quiz. And as you see here, you get instant feedback. Student passed this quiz. They got 75% right. The passing grade was 70%. Also, you notice that the question number 1 I got wrong, and it actually comes up and says what to review, what to study to learn more on this subject. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the instructor view, and I'm going to go here and manage this book. And there's a number of features that the instructors have. There's a dashboard for viewing student activity. There's a grade book, ability to customize. I'm going to go ahead and go into the grade book here, and I'm going to look at exams. And I'm going to look at the Chapter 1 quiz and see the results of that. And this shows everyone that's taken this quiz. It shows the results that they got. So this is a way also for each question to look at summary results and potentially identify issues that the instructor needs to go back and review with the class if a large number of students got a particular question wrong. And in addition, if they so wish, they can reset the quiz for a particular student and let them retake the quiz. Similarly, let me show the functionality for adding an assignment. Again, same paradigm here. You add an assignment, and you can choose whether the assignment is an upload or whether they write in the assignment results. So it can be a Word document or any other document. And I'm going to jump over to the student view, back to Chapter 1. And here, after review questions, I'm going to click Next. And here is the assignment. Now, I've already turned in the assignment. I actually turned it in once, and then I decided I made an error, and then I turned it in again. And the instructor has already graded it, and I got 90% right, 90 point, and I can view the feedback. So it's a very straightforward interface. Everything is integrated in the same sequence. One of the benefits is the fact that you have a single sign-on to all of the resources in a single place for all of the activity, not just the learning content, but also learning elements, quizzes, and assignments, etc. Let me show you an example of another book on the platform. This one is Ecology for Teachers. And you can see here the social activity, the comments, and the rating functionality available. One of the things that is also available on this platform is the ability to pull in content from other sources and integrate it into your classroom. So for instance, here in the search bar, I can search the content just in my course or my textbook. I can also go out and look for trusted content. So for instance, if I search for ecology, I can look for other peer-reviewed content available on the platform. This particular one is available on the Encyclopedia of the Earth, and here it is. If I like this content, I can add it to my course as easily as just clicking up here and add to my course Ecology for Teachers. With a single sign-on, it knows who I am, it knows what I have rights and privileges to, and I can simply add it. For instance, this section here on biodiversity. And it says, congratulations, you have live cross-published this to Ecology for Teachers. I can look at it where I put it in the class, and here it is. It appears within my course, and it's in the sequence. It will show up at the very end here, and again I can go up here and rearrange the sequence and put it where I'd like it. So these are some of the key features in addition to what Cutler has very well demonstrated that the platform supports. So let me talk a little bit about how one would adopt this course. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here. There's a number of sources of content on the Trunity platform. There is the whole book, for instance, the environmental science book. There's also encyclopedic material, crowdsourced content. There's teacher-created content and all other individual content. And this is all available through the Trunity Knowledge Exchange to add to your course or book when you're composing it. And the way that it works from a conceptual basis is, in the case if you're teaching a course from one of the books on the Trunity platform, you can either adopt a book as a whole, or you can select chapters from different books. And on the left-hand side, you can see I, as a professor, have some content on the platform which I can add, my own chapter. And in this particular case, I've written a chapter for $5. I've also had some lectures and assignment. I can also have content from my own school, as well as the crowdsourced content and other content. And so when it's made available to students, the system automatically adds up the total price for all the component content, and that's what they get charged when they purchase access. And the way that this looks from a student perspective, when they are given the private URL to join the courses, this is the screen. They are presented with the total price. They put in their name, credit card number, and they're in. So that is the basics that I wanted to go over. There's obviously a lot more information. Cutler mentioned about the support site. There's also a guide to how to author a book. For next steps, anyone who's interested in either adopting the environmental science textbook or one of the other textbooks on the platform, they can go to the Trunity.com, go ahead and click Try Our Digital Textbook, and then you have various options here. You can click here if you want to use this textbook in your class, request an examination copy if you don't already have it. You could also purchase an individual student copy that's not part of a course, or if you're interested in becoming an author, you can click this. So please go to Trunity.com and click Try Our Virtual Textbook if you're interested in adopting the course or authoring for the Trunity platform.
Thanks, Joakim. Very informative. So I would encourage you, Joakim described how to get access or request information, but you also have my email address there. It's just my first name, cutler@bu.edu, and feel free to drop me a line if you have any particular questions which you may not have time to propose now, and I'd be more than happy to talk to any of you one-on-one. So thanks again for your participation, and have a great rest of the day.